Welcome back to Attic Law. Tonight we open a file that remains chillingly cold, a case that has haunted the American psyche for over 50 years. This is the story of a killer who craved not just murder, but recognition. A killer who turned his crimes into a cryptic, terrifying conversation with the world. We are diving into the definitive case of the Zodiac Killer. Chapter 1. The Dark Debut, Lake Herman Road. The year is 1968. The place is Lake Herman Road, a dark, remote stretch of road in Benicia, California. The date is December 20th. Two teenagers, 17-year-old David Faraday and 16-year-old Betty Lou Jensen, were on their first date, parked in a secluded turnout. It was 10:15 p.m. when another vehicle pulled up and parked next to them. The details of what followed are pieced together from forensic evidence and the killer's own later chilling accounts. A man stepped out, approached the couple, and forced them out of the car. Jensen fled, running into the darkness. Faraday was shot execution-style, close range to the head. Jensen was then shot 5 times in the back, about 28 feet from the car. The killer left no witnesses, no identifiable fingerprints, and no clear motive. The crime was brutal, immediate, and without sexual assault, a precursor to the cold efficiency that would define the Zodiac. Police initially treated it as a thrill killing, or a lover's quarrel gone wrong, but the killer was just warming up. The true nature of the threat would become clear 6 months later. Chapter 2. The Escalation, Blue Rock Springs. The second attack came on July 4th, 1969, just 4 miles from the first site. 22-year-old Darlene Ferrin and 19-year-old Michael Mageau were parked at the Blue Rock Springs golf course lot, celebrating the holiday. Just before midnight, a car pulled into the lot. The driver left but returned 10 minutes later. This time, the killer drove directly up to the victim's car, blinding them with his bright headlights. He got out, walked to the passenger side, and fired a flurry of bullets into the vehicle. The killer then walked back to his car, but hearing Mageau moan in pain, he returned and fired 2 more shots into each victim. Ferrin died immediately. Mageau survived miraculously, despite being shot in the face, neck, and chest. He provided a vague description: a white man, 200 pounds, about 5'8", heavy-set. But this time the killer did something new. About 40 minutes after the attack, a male caller phoned the Vallejo Police Department. The chilling, monotone voice confessed to the Blue Rock Springs attack and the Lake Herman Road murders. The caller provided details only the killer would know. This was no ordinary killer. This was a performer. This was the Zodiac. Chapter 3. The Cryptic Conversation and the Ciphers. Just weeks after the Blue Rock Springs attack, the killer began his infamous reign of terror via the mail. On July 31st, 1969, 3 different letters were sent to 3 Bay Area newspapers: the Vallejo Times-Herald, the San Francisco Chronicle, and the Examiner. The letters contained chilling confessions of the 2 previous attacks and introduced the killer's distinct, arrogant voice. He demanded that his letters be printed on the front page of the papers, threatening a dozen more victims if they refused. To prove his identity, he included a piece of a cipher, a coded message consisting of 408 symbols. The killer stated that the cipher contained his identity. The newspapers published the letters. The race was on. Within days, the first cipher, known as the Z340, was cracked by a schoolteacher and his wife, Donald and Betty Harden. The decoded message was not a name, but a horrifying philosophical statement. "I like killing people because it is so much fun. It is more fun than killing wild game in the forest because man is the most dangerous animal of all to kill." He explained that his victims would become his slaves in the afterlife. The cipher ended ominously, stating, "I will not give you my name because you will try to slow down or stop my collecting of slaves." The killer had successfully turned the investigation into a game, and the police were forced to play by his rules. Chapter 4. The Peak of Arrogance, Lake Berryessa and the Taxi. The Zodiac escalated again, seeking to move his game from the shadows into the public domain. On September 27th, 1969, he attacked 2 college students, 20-year-old Brian Hartnell and 22-year-old Cecilia Shepard, who were having a picnic near Lake Berryessa in Napa County. The killer approached them wearing a terrifying executioner's costume, a black hood with sunglasses over the eyes, and a white cross-circle symbol, the Zodiac emblem, stitched onto the front. He carried a gun and a long knife, which he used to stab both victims multiple times. Before leaving, he used a black felt-tip pen to scrawl a message on Hartnell's car door, the date of the previous attacks, the current date, and his signature symbol. Shepard died 2 days later. Hartnell survived. The audacity of the crime, committed in broad daylight in a costume, stunned the nation. The Zodiac's final confirmed attack occurred just 2 weeks later, in the heart of San Francisco. On October 11, 1969, he shot and killed 29-year-old taxi driver Paul Stine in the upscale Presidio Heights neighborhood. Stine was shot in the head at point-blank range. This time the killer was spotted by 3 teenagers who saw him wiping down the taxi and walking away. Crucially, he made a mistake. He dropped a small piece of Stine's blood-soaked shirt. Chapter 5. The communication continues and the unsolved codes. The murder of Paul Stine triggered intense police activity, but the Zodiac was emboldened. He sent a letter to the Chronicle containing the piece of Stine's shirt, confirming his involvement. His letters continued over the next few years, each one more taunting and filled with cryptic threats. He sent more complex ciphers. The Z340 cipher, consisting of 340 characters, proved vastly more difficult than the first. Despite decades of effort by the FBI, the NSA, and thousands of amateur codebreakers, the Z340 remained famously unsolved for 51 years. When it was finally solved by a team of codebreakers in 2020, its message was another horrifying taunt, dismissing the police and stating he wasn't afraid of the gas chamber because it would send him to his paradise of slave collection. Again, it did not reveal his identity. The Z-Man also sent bomb threats, threatened to attack a school bus full of children, and even sent a map of the bomb's location. He frequently toyed with the police, offering false clues and mocking their efforts. His cross-circle signature became a terrifying icon of American true crime, symbolizing the ultimate predator who acted without motive, without fear, and without ever being caught. The letters continued intermittently until 1974, when the communication mysteriously stopped. The killer simply vanished into the fog of the San Francisco Bay Area, leaving behind a trail of 5 confirmed murders and 2 survivors. Chapter 6. The Suspects, the Theories, and the Obsession. Despite the massive scope of the investigation, the case remains officially unsolved. The decades-long hunt has focused on several key suspects, none of whom were ever definitively proven to be the Zodiac. The prime suspect, both for police and the public, was Arthur Lee Allen. Allen was a known child molester, a former schoolteacher, and a gun enthusiast. His shoes matched the rare military boot prints found at Lake Berryessa. He owned a Zodiac brand watch. Most damningly, his name was discovered on a list of people who had been asked to write to the newspapers regarding the attacks. However, his fingerprints and palm prints did not conclusively match those found at the Stine murder scene, and his handwriting samples were inconclusive. Allen died in 1992, never charged. Another compelling suspect, Rick Marshall, was identified in later decades based on forensic linguistic analysis and his location during the attacks. There was also the less conventional suspect, Gary Post, proposed by a team of former law enforcement professionals who claimed they identified his DNA on the envelope of one of the letters, though official agencies have not confirmed this. The psychological profile of the killer is a constant source of fascination. He was clearly organized, meticulous, and narcissistic, finding more satisfaction in the media coverage and the intellectual game than the murders themselves. The Zodiac was a performance artist of death, a precursor to the modern age of media-savvy serial killers. Chapter 7. The Legacy of Fear and the Cold File. The Zodiac Killer case is the ultimate cold file, a terrifying enigma that perfectly captured the public's imagination at the time when America was losing its post-war innocence. The case created a legacy of fear, inspiring countless books, movies, and documentaries. Every year, amateur sleuths and codebreakers dedicate their lives to solving the puzzle the Zodiac left behind. The greatest fear the Zodiac exploited was the idea that he could be anyone: the man next door, the co-worker, the friend. His refusal to reveal his identity ensured his immortality in the realm of true crime lore. Unlike other serial killers who were eventually apprehended, the Zodiac retained his power by remaining an active, conscious mystery. The investigation into the Zodiac Killer remains open in multiple California jurisdictions. Evidence, including DNA samples taken from the envelopes and stamps, continues to be reviewed and reanalyzed with modern technology. Every time a new piece of evidence is tested, the world holds its breath, hoping that the terrifying conversation that began in 1969 might finally find its last word. The question lingers: is the Zodiac still out there, or did he die peacefully, taking his horrific secret to the grave? The Zodiac Killer is the shadow figure in American history, an unsolved puzzle that may never be fully completed. Now we want to hear from you. Which suspect do you believe holds the key to the Zodiac's identity? Was Arthur Lee Allen the man, or do the codes point to someone else entirely? Let us know your most compelling theories in the comments below. If you are obsessed with the shadows of the unsolved, make sure you hit that subscribe button and join us next time on Attic Lore.